So here's the thing. You know how they say you can be anything you want in this world? All you have to do is set your mind to it? You can't. You just can't.
Greetings, my friend. We are all interested in the future, for that is where you and I are going to spend the rest of our lives. And remember, my friend, future events such as these will affect you in the future.
All of us have constraints. These are factors that restrict the options and choices before us. Now, let me show you what I mean. And to do that, I'll do an easy one first. I'm going to go out on a limb and say, you speak English. Okay, great, fantastic. Do you speak any other languages? I mean, fluently? Now, if the answer is no, then right away, you are restricted in what careers you can enter. Par exemple, moi, je parle français, mais pas très bien, pas du tout. Donc, si le Sorbonne veut que je donne le cours, c'est impossible. In the same sort of way, where do you want to live? Right away, that restricts your career options as well. Do you want to earn a lot of money but don't want to go to university? You can totally do that, but once again, this restricts your options. Becoming a medical doctor is not really on the table if you don't want to go to university. Do you want really awesome job security in a strong, large company? You can do that. However, that means you're probably not going to join on with a small startup that's run on venture capital with foosball tables in the break room. These are economic constraints, but there are practical constraints as well. For example, take age. My wife wanted to be a medical doctor, but then life kind of did what life does. And so by the time she was ready to really invest in a career, well, she's like close to 50 years old and with nothing more than an associate's degree under her belt. Now, that doesn't mean that for her to go on and become a medical doctor was absolutely out of the question, but it was hugely impractical. Luckily, there were other options available to her, and we'll talk more about that later on. All right, so this was the bummer segment of this video. You can't be anything you want. Your options are very limited. And while you may have a compelling why statement, that doesn't mean that the whole world is open to you. And odds are you're not even watching anymore. But now here's the good news. The options that are available to you are vast and many. There are so many options and opportunities out there waiting for you that you're not going to feel curtailed. You're going to be spoiled for choice. But that said, it is important to first really figure out your constraints. What do you want to require from this new career? Location, wage, security, benefits, all that good stuff. You want to have this in mind because this is kind of your goal, what you're shooting for, your walk-away price, if you will. And once you have that, we can now explore your options, your opportunities. Now, as we do this, let me ask you a question. What makes something a viable opportunity? It's the ability to exploit that opportunity. The key word here is ability. It's your abilities, your strengths, that allow you to seize the opportunity. Know how to play an instrument? Well, if somebody asks, you can join a band. Know how to dance? Well, then when the opportunity comes to join a dance troupe, you can seize it. Know how to paint? Well, then if somebody asks if you can help them as a graphic artist, you can exploit that opportunity. In practical terms, these abilities that we're talking about, your strengths, they're your credentials, skills, experience, and resources. These are the tools that allow you to exploit opportunities when they come your way. So with that, let's break them down a little bit and explore what we mean by credentials, skills, experience, and resources. First, let's look at credentials. Credentials include university degrees, certifications, awards, and bodies of published work. When you get right down to it, all a credential is some sort of affirmation from an accredited body that you've completed a program and that, in theory, you know what you're doing. Next, let's look at skills. Skills are what give you the ability to do something, the demonstrated competency and know-how to accomplish something particular. This includes both hard and soft skills. Now, hard skills are things like knowing how to operate some machinery or a computer or speak a foreign language, things of that nature. By contrast, soft skills are the interpersonal skills, the ability to communicate or solve problems, think critically, or work on a team. Okay, now let's look at experience. Experience is the practical knowledge and insights you've derived from direct observation and participation in the industry. It's what separates book smarts from street smarts. It says you've been there, done that, got the t-shirt. Now, I'm not just talking about paid experience here, and this is something we're going to talk about more in a future video. I'm talking about volunteer work, hobbies, activities. Any experience is experience. And so we want to think about all the skills and abilities we have by virtue of our entire background. All right, finally, we have resources. Depending on the field or industry, resources can range from access to tools and machinery to professional networks and insider relationships. This also includes finite resources like time and money, things like that. It's anything that you have that somebody else may lack and gives you a competitive advantage. Okay, now what we want to do is kind of divide our credentials and our experience and our skills and our resources into 3 buckets. The first bucket is all the credentials, skills, experience, and resources that we have in abundance. The second bucket are those that we have to some degree, and the third bucket are those that we lack utterly. Now, with this sort of back-of-the-napkin analysis in place, we can really look at what career options are most viable to us. In other words, when we look at all the abilities that we have and think, well, gee, I should be able to move into this sort of career really easily, given all the credentials, experience, and skills and resources I have, well, you know that that is a really strong opportunity for you. On the other hand, maybe you don't want to go that direction. That's fine. In future videos, we're going to talk about how to bridge the gap. Still, this will give you a really good idea of what options are most viable for you. Okay, now those are your abilities or your strengths, right? But now we need to look at the other side of the coin. What are your deficiencies or your weaknesses? Now, remember that third bucket, those credentials and skills, experience, and resources that you utterly lack? Well, if you're aiming for a career that really relies on abilities that would be in that third bucket, those are your deficiencies. That presents a weakness for you. Now, here's the thing. Just as in our abilities, our strengths allow us to take advantage of opportunities, our deficiencies, our weaknesses, make us vulnerable to threats. For instance, let's say that you want to become a business analyst and you have a bachelor's degree. That's great. That is probably in your second bucket, something that you have to some degree. However, you're going up against others who perhaps have an MBA or a master's of some sort. This means that you are vulnerable to that particular risk, the risk that you would be outshined by somebody else. Now, it's very important that you don't just gloss over your weaknesses, these deficiencies. Now, I get it. It's not a ton of fun to just list out all the reasons that you're going to fail. But here's the thing. They're not the reasons that you're going to fail. They are weaknesses that we need to mitigate for. We need to figure out how to gain these skills and abilities and these credentials so that we can turn them into strengths. If we do not properly understand our weaknesses, then we cannot properly mitigate for them. Now, the final thing we want to do is look at market trends and figure out which industries offer the greatest opportunity. For example, industries like healthcare, data analysis, computer engineering, mechanical engineering, these industries are really forecasted to explode over the next 20 years. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you have to go into one of these industries, but here's the idea. Take the time to figure out which industries are going to be strongest over the next 2 decades so that you know that you're getting in at the right time. Now, some of you who have taken a business class or two might be saying, golly, this looks familiar. Strengths, opportunities, weaknesses, threats, market trends. Well, you're not wrong. This is a SWOT analysis. Let me break this down for you. We looked at all of our strengths, all the ways in which we totally kick ass, and then considered the opportunities that these strengths made available to us. We then looked at our weaknesses, areas in which we don't do so hot, and thought, well, gee, this opens us up to certain threats. Finally, we looked at where the market is going. What are the best opportunities we should pursue right now, thinking long-term? These were the market trends. So yeah, I'm not just making this crap up, people. I know what I'm doing. All right, one last thought. I understand that maybe you've already set your sights on a very specific career. And so the idea of going through this process and looking at all the options available to you, you might be thinking, I don't need to worry about that. I recommend you do it anyway, not to dissuade you from your current career choice, where you want to take your career, but to help you understand what are the gaps, what are the risks, what do you need to do to best set yourself up for success in that new career. And when you do that, even if you say, oh, golly, well, gee, I don't have any of the credentials, skills, or experience or resources necessary to be successful, I guess I need to abandon my goal. No, okay? It just simply means that we have a lot of work in front of us, but it can be done. So stick with me in this series because we're going to talk about how to bridge your current state to your future state. On the other hand, it may be that as you go through this process, new and exciting opportunities start to reveal themselves. Don't close yourself off to these. After all, this is going to expand your thinking. Allow yourself to kind of explore new and exciting possibilities. Yes, you are constrained in what you can do. You can't be anything you want. But once you kind of remove those from the picture and look at what you have left, your options are endless. Now, let's also point out, though, that it may be that as you go through this process, you do find that your current career goal, that specific job that you're shooting for, is kind of impractical. That's okay, though. There are still options available to you. Remember my wife who wanted to be a medical doctor, but it was impractical to pursue that career past the age 50? Well, she went into X-ray, into radiology, and today she's a radiological technologist at the University of Utah with a bachelor's degree, working on a master's, and working in a fantastic, thriving career. And so yes, while one option may be impractical, there are many, many other options in the same field, in the same industry that would just roll over and die for you. So be open to those possibilities. Okay, well, no matter what you decide, this is just the beginning. There's a lot of work in front of us, so stick with me. We can make this happen. And until we meet up again, have a fantastic day. My wife isn't just an awesome rad tech. She's also really artistic. Check out the graduation cap that she made and her watercolors. She has a thing for skeletons, that's for sure.